We'll reconvene at 11:10.
All stand.
Now we should be able to talk in here.
Now, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like your views on the relationship between Smith and Gaffney. Is it true there's bad blood between them?
Well, yes, it was just the usual jockeying for position, wanting control over the other women.
And until recently, Smith would have won out?
Yeah, until recently.
Mr. Fletcher, I'd like you to appear as a witness for the defense.
Well, I don't see how I can help you. I don't even know whether I want to help you. I'm not convinced that Smith lost a memory.
Oh, all I want you to do is go into court and tell the truth.
All right. But don't blame me if what I've got to say doesn't help your case.
Well, don't worry, I won't. Now, perhaps you give me some background information on this feud between Smith and Gaffney.
Well, like I said, it was the usual power struggle. It happens in any prison. So it doesn't matter whether it's a men's prison or a women's prison. Somebody has to be top dog.
And at Wentworth, prior to a transfer to Barnhurst, it was B. Smith.
Yes, that's right.
Then it'd be true to say it was partially due to this control over the women that Smith was transferred.
Well, yes, I suppose so.
So what happened when Smith, as top dog, was moved? Presumably there was a fight to take place.
Objection, Your Honor. Defense is leading the witness. But where, I cannot tell.
Objection sustained. Although I presume you do have a point to make, Mr. Hartman.
I'm trying to establish that the witness Gaffney has a motive for deliberately wishing to malign the defendant, Your Honor.
Very well. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, what did happen when Smith departed?
Well, as you said, there was a fight to take place.
And who won this fight?
Gaffney.
So, when Smith returned to the Wentworth Detention Centre, presumably Gaffney felt her newfound position as top dog threatened. A position she'd fought hard to obtain.
Objection.
I withdraw the remark. I'd like to move on to a statement given to the court earlier by Margot Gaffney. She stated the alleged conversation took place while Smith was locked in a cell. When asked why Smith was locked in a cell, she replied, she was in a fight. Could you tell the court exactly why Smith was locked in a cell?
Yes, it was for her own protection.
Can you explain?
Well, when Smith went missing earlier in the day, we mounted a search. We found her in the storeroom. She'd been beaten up, so the governor ordered her to be locked in her cell for her own protection.
Was it ever established who attacked Smith?
No, she couldn't or she wouldn't identify her attacker.
Perhaps she was afraid. Tell me, who in prison would have enough muscle to order Smith to be beaten up?
Objection, Your Honor. Defense is asking witness for an opinion.
I don't think the question needs answering anyway, Your Honor.
Objection sustained. Strike the last question from the record. And I must warn you, Mr. Hartman, not to try to make mileage out of questions that have been judged inadmissible. Proceed with your questioning.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
Just wait till I get along Gaffney pick up Wentworth.
Dr. Wiseman, you've heard the prosecution witness claim that Smith's amnesia is feigned. Is there any chance, do you think, that your opinion of Smith's condition is wrong?
That's always a possibility. Nobody's infallible. However, I have had considerable experience with the criminal mind.
You've been employed by the Department of Corrective Services for how long?
15 years.
15 years. And in that time, it'd be pretty unusual for you to appear for the defense.
Pretty unusual, yes. Unless I'm convinced the defense case is just.
Thank you, Dr. Wiseman. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Wiseman. You may step down. Mr. Waller, will you be presenting any medical evidence regarding the defendant's medical state?
No, Your Honor.
Well, in that case, this may be a good time to explain to the jury the defendant's plea. Basically, if you accept the defense's medical evidence that Smith had lost her memory at the time she escaped lawful custody, and the prosecution are offering no alternative medical evidence, then you must accept the plea of guilty with mitigating circumstances. Clearly, if the accused has no memory of ever having been in legal custody,
yes,
she cannot be held responsible
get onto
for
my case
escaping
too soon.
from such
Mrs.
custody.
Morris isn't even here yet. She's my only
Now,
witness.
shall we move on to hear evidence?
Don't
on the
worry,
other
she'll be
charges?
here. I hope so.
Oh, hello, Mr. Sutton.
Oh, Mrs. Morris.
You wanted to see me about Nick?
Yes.
Well, how's he handling his first day?
He didn't turn up.
What?
He didn't turn up. But it doesn't matter anyway. I've been on to the CES and they're sending somebody else down.
Oh, well, there must be some explanation. Look, if I could get hold of him straight away, would his job still be available?
No, it's too late.
Couldn't you give him just one more chance?
He's had his chance. Look, Mrs. Morris, there are thousands of kids out of work and I end up doing this job myself. Now, I'm not giving him special treatment just because he's got a criminal record.
Not asking for special treatment.
That's exactly what you're asking for. I'm sorry, Mrs. Morris, but there are too many kids who want to work. And if he's too lazy, I reckon you're wasting your time with him.
We have heard evidence that at the time of the capture, B. Smith had no recollection of having been in prison. I don't want to comment on that just now. The point is that regardless whether B. Smith knew who she was or not, Mrs. Brooks was very familiar with her. They had spent many years together in prison. Mrs. Brooks was aware that when Smith arrived at her home, she must have escaped from legal custody. Despite this, she did not call the police. She, in fact, attempted to aid her escape. I would like to recall Detective Sergeant Philip Rouse to the stand.
Call Detective Sergeant Philip Rouse.
Who are you looking for now? Mrs. Morris. She still hasn't arrived. Don't worry, she'll be here.
You realize, Sergeant Rouse, you're still under oath?
I do.
Sergeant, when you received news that Beatrice Smith had escaped legal custody, what action did you take?
The usual. We checked all known associates, warned them that it was an offence to assist Smith, and they should contact the police immediately if they saw her.
And it was in this capacity that you visited the home of Mrs. Brooks?
Yes. We later placed the house under surveillance when we received information that Smith had visited the premises.
So where did you get that information?
Mrs. Morris, the accused's parole officer.
And whilst you were watching the house, what happened?
We saw Smith enter the premises. We followed her in and caught Brooks handing her money. We then arrested both Smith and Brooks.
No further questions?
Like a beer?
No, I do not want a beer. What do you think you're doing?
Having a drink.
That's not what I meant. Why aren't you at work?
I didn't think being stuck in that warehouse all day sounded like much fun.
Oh, and I suppose this is your idea of fun, is it? Lying around at 11 o'clock in the morning getting drunk.
It's all right.
It is not all right. I went to a lot of trouble to get you that job. And it's not only me you've let down. You've ruined it for every other parolee I try and get work for. Have you any idea how hard it is to get a job these days, even without a criminal record? Well, have you?
I suppose so.
Oh, you suppose so. You're hopeless. No wonder your father gave up on you.
Is this your mother, Nick?
No, I am not his mother, thank goodness.
Yeah, well, I didn't ask for your help, did I?
You haven't any choice, have you? If I don't help you, you know where you'll end up. Could we have this conversation without your friend?
Sure.
Well, come on. I'm sorry I spoke to you like that in front of your friend. I didn't mean to embarrass you.
I wasn't embarrassed.
Weren't you? I would have been. Why didn't you turn up for that job?
I don't know.
You seem to be deliberately making life difficult for yourself. Why?